In this video, I'm going to show you a specific detail related to your posture that you may have never heard about before. Something subtle, but something very useful for you to know about. So stay tuned. My name is Seth Dellinger. I am a Feldenkrais practitioner in Washington, D.C. I host the online Embodied Dialogue community practice sessions, as well as the Embodied Dialogue podcast. And I also work individually with clients. So after this video, if you find it useful and you'd like some more help with issues related to movement, posture, or overall well-being, feel free to contact me at the link below. So today we're going to look again at, as I say, something fairly specific. And that is, how do you make use of your soft palate? So the soft palate is the roof of your mouth, and we're talking about the backside. So just so we're all on the same page, you can start by taking your tongue and just moving along the roof of the mouth, and right behind the teeth, you'll feel it's hard, and that's why it's called the hard palate. And you go further back, you'll feel the dome is a little bit higher there, and you can feel soft tissue. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the soft palate. Now, what I'm going to explain to you about the soft palate is so crucial because really this is very close to the junction of where your head sits on the top of your spine. Where is the top of your spine? Well, if you take a look at a model skeleton and you open the mouth and look inside, what you will see is the very top of the spine. To sense that area for yourself, you can just think of a point between your ears and more or less at the level of the back of your mouth. You can come down under your ears and feel the ridges of the skull, and if you push in there gently, you might be able to feel a sense of bone. And that is the transverse process, the wings that come out of the highest vertebra up in your spine. So just to give you a sense, so the soft palate is just in front of that area. And so how you use the muscles of the soft palate is very much going to impact how your head sits on top of your spine. Now, I do want to say that what you're going to learn in this video is not all that you need for good posture. Good posture depends on clear contact and support from the ground, a sense of that connection all the way up through the skeleton, and how does the head sit on top? Ideally, the work of the muscles of your spine is evenly distributed through the whole length of your spine. And so there are many other considerations here. Just as a sort of starter for that, I would recommend you check out the video I made to help people who have back pain during meditation. That video goes over some basic things about the organization of your hip joints, your pelvis, and your abdomen, which will be a big help with what we're going to do today. But there are just a couple of principles that relate to the organization of the spine that we can really zero in on today. So one thing is, in ideal posture and an ideal movement, you should have a sense of length through your spine. Now, this doesn't mean that you won't bend your spine, fold your spine, and do different things. So it doesn't mean it's always straight, but there's a sense of length all the way up and down. And when you have that length, you can think of your head as kind of like a really big vertebra at the top of the spine, and you have freedom to move the head because it's positioned in such a way that it's not limited in its movement. And so let's begin by looking at this question of the support for your head. Now, we have to begin with an approximation. So I'll just say, come to a place of sitting that feels for you right now, upright and relaxed, and imagine your head is just floating upwards. This doesn't mean you'll instantly find some perfect posture, but a real sense that the head is light. You can imagine it like a balloon, and feel in the back of your mouth. Feel the soft palate. You can touch it again with your tongue. And then very slowly, I'm going to ask you to let your head sort of droop and fall off of your spine. So just let it sink just a little and then stay there and feel the soft palate. Do you notice that something has changed? Now, you may or may not get this detail, but try it for a little while. Come to that sense of having the head very tall and light, and then letting the head sink off the top of the spine. And just see if you can get a sense in the back of your mouth. When is it more open and relaxed, and when is there a tension? Of course, when your head falls off the spine, it's no longer getting the structural support of the skeleton, and so some muscles have to begin to work. And I think you'll find that there is a tightening in the soft palate. If you didn't feel that just yet, no worries. Let's investigate something else. You may have heard about the distinction between mouth breathing and nose breathing. And there's a lot of reasons why it's healthier in general to breathe through your nose. But let's investigate what happens with the soft palate. So just bring your attention there again and breathe in and out through your nose for a few breaths, and then switch over to breathing through your mouth. Go back and forth. And again, can you feel that there is a change in the organization of the soft palate? If you'd like to go into more detail about this, I do have a video that will lead you through a very detailed process of how the use of your tongue and your soft palate is related to the difference between mouth breathing and nose breathing. But for now, we're just getting a little bit of a taste. Now let's get into something that is going to make this a lot clearer for you. So now, notice your soft palate if you begin to yawn. Stop before doing a complete yawn, or if you did, try again, but just do the beginning of the yawning. And see if you can feel that the soft palate actually lifts up in the direction of the top of your head. So this is a movement that we want to get familiar with today. So just repeat this while I'm talking. Think of yawning. Don't go all the way to doing it, but do enough so that you can feel I'm lifting my soft palate, in the sense that the tissue of the soft palate is going up towards the crown of your head. Now, after you've done that a few times, can you now deliberately think of hardening the soft palate? So when you lift it, you can imagine the dome getting higher, but now think of flattening in the soft palate and tensing it. That's me tensing the soft palate, and this is me lifting. Probably you can't see it, but when I go between those two different ways of using my soft palate, I feel very different, and maybe you can feel it too. Let's see how this relates to a simple movement. So without worrying about the soft palate, would you please once just turn your head a little to one side and the other? And you may find that one direction is easier. For me right now, that's turning to the right. So then just turn slowly in the direction that's easy and find out how far can you go without any sense of strain. If you can look behind you by straining, great, but don't strain and just see what is that movement. But now, lift the soft palate and think of it lifting and lifting and lifting, like you're just continuously lifting the soft palate, and turn your head again. I actually got a small improvement in the turning my head through doing that. Just see what you notice. And now do the opposite. Tense the soft palate. Really make sure that it's kind of hard, and think of it being dropped down. And then what's it like to turn your head then? I barely do anything before I feel that there's something is getting harder, right? So if you like, you can turn your head and lift and lower and just see if you can feel the difference. But it's a sense of, is there space there for the head to rotate and slide over the top vertebra or not? And I think you'll feel, if you pay attention, that there is a real difference. Now, of course, the idea isn't that you should walk around all day thinking about lifting your soft palate. But when you harden the soft palate and you feel that the head is compressed a little downwards, you might realize that's maybe a somewhat familiar feeling, but you just never really thought about how that was happening for you. So I'm going to invite you into a process now, and this is going to really awaken the organization of the soft palate in such a way that when we're done, I think you'll find that you don't need to think about it, but you'll have a very different sense. And so let's choose the side of your mouth where you found that that was the direction you most easily turn your head. So I turn to the right more easily, so I'm going to work with the soft palate on the right side of my mouth. If you turned more easily to the left, go ahead and work with the left side. So you just bring your attention to the soft palate, but now imagine like as if you had a line down the middle of the back of your mouth, and you're just going to think about the soft palate on that side. And also think of breathing through that side of your nose. So for me, I imagine I'm breathing through my right nostril down into my right lung. And every time I breathe in, I think of lifting the right side of my soft palate. Think of the movement of the lift as happening as you breathe in throughout the inhale, so that it takes the same length of time. And that's just to create a sort of a harmony, a synchronization of the breath and this movement. Because of course, you can't see your soft palate, you can feel something, but there's an image that you're working with here that's important. Just keep doing this. You can pause periodically if you like. But basically, we're getting very familiar with this movement, but now we're going to get a little more specific. So I'm going to lift the soft palate on the right side of the back of my mouth, but I'm going to think that I am aiming it internally up towards my right eye. For you, you might be working on the left, but again, just lifting the soft palate, but think that it's lifting straight up towards your eyeball, which is more or less right over the soft palate. And maybe you can even think of the eye itself floating upwards a little bit in the eye socket, being soft and expansive. If you sort of squint your eye, even slightly, you might feel it's not actually as easy to lift the soft palate. So again, think of the eye being soft. Maybe you have your eyes closed, lifting the soft palate up towards your eye directly above. So you can repeat that a number of times, but now I'll invite you to pause, and we're just going to lift the soft palate again, but we're going to choose a new direction. So lift the soft palate and aim up, but a little forward, as if you were taking those tissues towards the nostril on the side that you're working. For me, it's my right nostril. And so there's a sense that those tissue are moving up and a little forward. And you should feel that this is a different sensation from thinking of lifting the soft palate up towards your eyeball. Now, if you like, you could, I'll speak in terms of if you're working with the right side, so reverse this if you're working on the left. But if I reach the right side of my soft palate towards my right nostril, I could turn my head a little bit to the left. Because you could imagine if you had your finger inside your mouth and you were reaching and pushing forward on the roof of your mouth there, forward and up, you might be turning your head a little to the other side. So if you like, lift the soft palate and reach towards the nostril on the side where you're working and begin to turn your head towards the other direction. But then you can just stay facing forward. And just to sort of get a sense of the vocabulary that you are building here, now move your soft palate once up towards your eye, and then once towards the nostril. And go back and forth like that a few times. And now just pause again and notice what's beginning to develop. If you just put your attention inside your mouth, it should feel very different on the side where you've been working. Even if you don't do anything deliberate with the soft palate, does it actually feel like it's lifted higher on the side where you've been making these movements? Feel also if you turn your head side to side. In my case, the difference between turning right and left is much more pronounced. It's way easier now for me to turn to the right. You might be noticing something like that as well. Okay, so let's add a third movement, which is to lift the soft palate, but thinking that you're going back and you can aim towards your ear on that side. Again, remember, we're going to do this as we breathe in. So as the in-breath comes, you think of reaching the tissue in the soft palate towards your ear on the same side of your head. Now, again, if you'd like to imagine there was a little finger inside the mouth pushing on the soft palate in the same direction that those tissues were reaching towards the ear, you might see how it would turn your head in that direction. So if you like, you can combine that a few times with turning the head towards the side where you're lifting the soft palate back towards the ear. And just as an experiment, you could actually reach back towards the ear, but turn the head the other way. And you might feel, does that work as well? Or is it clearer when I turn my head in the direction that the tissue are reaching? So try this. Reach the tissue of your soft palate once towards your nose and then once towards your ear. Do this coordinating with the in-breath, but also turn your head once to the right and once to the left. And just notice how you're coordinating it. And then if you reverse the order and you turn your head the other way for the particular movement that you're doing, just notice if one of those versions of lifting the soft palate in that particular direction and turning the head feels more harmonious, and in the other case, it feels a little more dissonant. Okay, so let's just put it all together now. Lift your soft palate on the same side you've been working, once towards your eye, and then with the next breath towards the nostril, and then with the very next breath back towards the ear. And repeat that a couple times, and then begin to think that the soft palate, because the tissues are soft, they can stretch in different directions. And you can take it towards your eye and your nostril at the same time. You can take it towards your eye and your ear at the same time. And then begin to think of all three. Think of the soft palate lifting, spreading in all of these directions. And just notice each time you do this, is there a sense, especially on the side where you are working, that the spine can lengthen, that the top of the head can lift a little upwards. So if you've been working on the right side, maybe shift your weight a little to the right as you make the movement. And think of, especially along the right side, that all along the length of the spine, there's a way you can be lifting up. Down at the bottom, you can think of the pubic bone reaching down and a little back. The belly being open. So you should have a very different feeling in the soft palate on one side, and probably in the muscles of your face, your throat, and maybe even just a sense that that side of your spine is longer than the other. Now you can repeat this whole process on the other side, and then you can begin to play with working with the whole soft palate again. But what you can do just in daily life is, if you're sitting, if you're talking, if you're singing, if you are maybe carrying something heavy up a flight of stairs, what are you doing with your soft palate? And if you can bring the awareness to the possibility of lifting the soft palate, it's not that those tiny muscles do all the work, but they activate an organization all the way through the length of the spine. And so, yes, it's just one little ingredient of posture, but I think if you pay attention, you'll find in every situation, you can notice, are you tensing the soft palate and sort of collapsing it down, or can your soft palate lift and expand? I'll just add, I previously made a video around the use of the nostrils and working with the movement of your nose, the nostril, in 3 different directions. And if you were to combine that process with the 3 different directions of movement in the soft palate, I think you'll be amazed at the results. So those are both little processes that once you learn them, you can really use them any time and any place. And so it's something that I like to do when I'm kind of on the run, but I want to get a clearer sense of my posture, a fuller breath. So maybe try that out. And if you would like my guidance directly to help you with your posture, your movement, your overall well-being, please do get in touch. Once again, there is a link below this video. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you next time.